How are you all today? Oh, come on. It's Monday. It's St. Patrick's Day. You just had 2 or 3 parades. Come on, there's got to be a little bit more energy out there than that. Happy Monday. How are you guys all doing today? Good. You. All right. So, as Alison mentioned, the ask for me here today was to talk through a tool and approach that Compass Group has been using. What are we seeing out in the food service industry? How are we seeing energy and climate impacting that, and vice versa? So I'm going to go through a couple of different things, but as a little bit of a background to that, some bio for me, or a little bit on my personal background and how I came to this. I've been working in the sustainability area for about 10 years now, specifically with carbon footprint for almost 4 years now. And it was really conceived originally with the idea in mind that at some point our clients are going to be coming to us and looking for solutions that improve their environmental performance in ways that really relate to specifically to climate change. Right? We saw this as something on the horizon that they really wanted to tackle, and we need to be getting ready for that. And as a student of sustainability for that past decade, a lot of issues on the spectrum, I really don't see one that outweighs the issue of climate change. And I say that not necessarily in the context of like, oh hey, it's all doom and gloom, or we just throw in the shoe now, it's all, we're all done for. There's a lot that we can do from just setting this up as an awareness perspective of taking the approach of, hey, this is what's going on. Now what can we do about it? Where can we find the opportunities? How can we improve? How can we make a difference? How can we change? So I want to make sure that kind of tenor for the conversation is clear. That I'm not here to deliver the doomsday speech. I'm here to say, all right, hey, from a context of take a look at what's going on and where can we find the opportunities to continually improve and hit those 2015 goals and other goals that UVM might have out there. As a little bit of a framework for the conversation, if anybody else has anything on the agenda burning that they want to chat about, we can feel free to throw that in there. Based on conversation so far with Alex and some of the other organizers, it sounds like we're really looking forward, especially since we don't have as many carryovers from the initial conversation in the series, just to level set and say, okay, well, what's really going on from that 20,000 foot bird's eye view? What's going on in the food supply chain generally? Go down a little bit to say, okay, great, what's the interplay then between climate change, the change of climate change, how is that impacting food service, vice versa? Go down again to about maybe like the 5,000 foot level and see, keep having to find this microphone spot, figure out what really is Compass Group doing on this initiative, and Chartwell's, what are they doing on this front? And then follow it up specifically with some examples at like the 5 foot level. What are we seeing at campuses? All right, what are some examples, some case studies? Does that sound like a pretty good game plan for your next 30 minutes? Okay, and then obviously Q&A after that, participatory. Still, even after all these years of education and all these years of academia, it's still like, I don't like, you can move up, it's not that hard. I'm not gonna like shame you out the door if you have to get up and leave early for your next class. It's okay, you can move up. With that in mind, wanted to touch on something that we're really seeing from the Compass Group perspective, just when we look across the US nationally, is this concept of the new normal. And as a way to explain that, this consulting firm, PricewaterhouseCoopers, has recently been talking about the idea that measuring an organization's whole footprint, so beyond just the financial accounting, the whole footprint, shows management the full impact that it's making, as well as that despite these challenges, whatever it might be facing, quantifying the organization's footprint in a common business language has 2 major benefits. First, it helps the management understand the trade-offs between different strategies and make the best decisions for all stakeholders. Then, second, that in turn helps the organization earn more trust for customers and ultimately improve that net income score that even for organizations like institutions of academia is very critical to their lifeblood and being able to deliver continuously on their mission. So that's the message for the Chancellor and the CFO in the room. By the way, is the Chancellor here? You can tell them that's their message. For more of our usual prospective clients, the usual more direct managers, the day-to-day, the frontline folks, interacting with your food service colleagues, we're hearing much more frequently that what they want, what's important to them, is more efficient operations, better environmental performance, and great stories that come with that continual improvement. So all of this bundles together to say that there really is a new normal in what's important to clients in food service. Now, it's great, Chris. That's all nice pie in the sky. What does that really mean? Like, let's get technical. Dive down a little bit. So go from that 20,000 foot view down to about the 10,000 foot. So we see this coming from this new normal coming in from a couple of different places in food service. First one is market pressure. So our weather patterns are continually become more extreme. On that front, what do you all remember about 2012 versus 2013? I know it was like months ago and years ago, but what do you all remember in regards to weather? What was 2012 like? Anything remarkable about 2012?
It was 80 degrees in March.
What's that?
It was 80 degrees in March.
80 degrees in March.
I think it snowed in October.
What's that?
Didn't it snow in October in 2012?
Yeah. So 2012 was actually, honestly, not the hottest days on record in ages. It broke a number of records in regards to just the disproportional highs versus very few lows. There were lots of droughts. You had the vast majority of the country facing a drought-like situation. Now take that and compare it to what was going on in 2013. What was your experience in 2013? That was only a couple months ago. This memory should be a little bit more fresh.
Really wet spring.
Really wet spring, really wet weather, just
Record flooding.
yeah, lots of wet, just really, really wet here. So these types of extremes in the climate patterns that you're seeing, that's part of the dialogue that has shifted over the past couple of years to say like, hey, let's, this is not only saying, all right, hey, maybe climate really is changing, maybe this is really starting to have some impact, but it's also giving us these early indicators of, hey, this could be the new normal. It's not maybe not an outlier anymore. This could be more of what we're going to see going forward. So what does that mean for us on kind of like a day-to-day perspective? For the USDA, we've been looking at seeing food costs increasing by 2 to 5%. We've seen that a variety of our suppliers have said, hey, this weather volatility is going to be one of the biggest, if not the largest, impact factor in our North American agribusiness. Beyond just the impact on our ability to produce things, this type of weather volatility also impacts our infrastructure, right? When the roads wash out, when everything else gets run down, we don't have the ability to deliver all of that type of food that already have produced in the system. So just a lot of that comes down to, at the end of the day, that for the food service operators, we face higher costs from our vendors. And our clients have started noticing that, and they're turning around and saying like, hey, food service operators manage for this. We can't have budgets spiraling out of control due to crazy weather. This is something we need you to own up and manage for. So that's one area where we're seeing increased pressure. Second place that we're seeing this coming from is the market options. So 10 years ago in North Carolina, we were seeing folks fishing shrimp off the coast. I'm trying to use local examples. I know how local is for Vermont. Today we're seeing them, just because of the changes in their climate and their ecosystems, we're seeing them say like, hey, there's no more shrimp there. Now we have to go farm jellyfish, and actually, anybody in the US, anybody eat jellyfish? No? Okay, so now not only are we farming something different here, we have to send it all the way across the world to find a market for it. So we're starting to see a lot of impact locally on what really is available because of these changes in the climate. Now, beyond all of that, there's also third, market viability. So CDP is predicting also an increase in foodborne illnesses. So given what we said about 2012 and 2013, why is that the case? Why would CDP say that, or sorry, CDC, say that there's going to be an increase in foodborne illnesses?
Increase in what?
Foodborne illnesses. If we're having more extreme hot days, more extreme wet days, why does the CDC think that there will be more foodborne illnesses?
Quality. Quality of food.
Why?
Food quality.
Yes, why?
The food
Oh,
will spoil faster.
Spoiling.
So it's wetter, more runoff from cattle ranches or something.
And you guys are all kind of getting to the point that it becomes then harder to maintain the product, right? It becomes harder to maintain the food if you're thinking about refrigerated areas, storage facilities, transporting any of this stuff. If it's really hot, that's going to tax the system a lot more. If it's really wet, it's going to tax the system a lot more outside of the norms that it was built to maintain, right? So these are all pressures that we as food operators are facing, and that our clients are seeing and turning around and saying, hey, help us manage for this. There's a new normal, help us manage for this. So, climate is impacting us. We're also having a direct impact on the climate. What we know from the UN is that the food industry makes up 33% of all emissions, all greenhouse gas emissions globally, second only after transportation. Department of Energy also flagged food service as the highest energy intensity per square foot. Now, EPA also flagged us as one of the most wasteful as well, single largest component for landfills. So, to say it differently, we're creating a lot of costs for ourselves through all of this. There are a lot of areas within our control, within food service operators' control, where we could be making some type of measurable difference if we know about it, if we have the tools to have that awareness. So we talked about where it's that we have an impact on it. Where do you all think that that's coming from? Where really is our biggest contribution? You think about the life cycle of food. Where's our biggest slice?
Production.
Yeah, I can skip through most of this if you guys already know it. So production is really the biggest piece. And there's lots of little stories that I can go into that I can say for Q&A. So I'll skip through a lot of things for time, but when you think about let's just use beef as one example. By 2050, we're looking at having to need a whole lot more food resources, a whole lot more food, utilizing a whole lot fewer resources, right? So our beef population, we're looking at going from 1.4 billion all the way up to, by 2050, 2.6 billion. In the US, if droughts and everything else are forcing cattle production elsewhere, where is that beef going to be, right? That kind of shrinking livestock population is something that we're seeing migrating over to rainforests or other places to the extent that you're having a landmass the size of New York City converted to grazing every day. So there's 2 acres just turned from forest into grazing. It's really bad from a greenhouse gas perspective. But above and beyond that, there's also hay. So not only is there more cattle, now there's less lung capacity for the plant, and by the way, we're replacing it with methane, which is also really bad. So from an emissions perspective, this really doesn't make a whole lot of sense to have that, but what does that mean for us as food service operators? Where's the opportunity in there? What can we do around beef if everybody still wants beef? I'm trying to skip some of these so that we can keep interest of time here. For transportation, anyone ever heard the song Everything Has a Season? Yeah, yeah. So some people, some of them were younger in the crowd.
Birds,
Yeah, yeah. We have a slightly different song these days. Everything for every season. So if you want cantaloupe year round, if you want any of these other products, any product year round, it's not always locally available year round. Where are you getting it from? How are you flying it in? There's a lot of transportation issues that are a factor in that. Again, the idea for us as food service operators is to think, what can we be doing about that? Where are the opportunities? If there's a demand for it, how can we menu for that in a way that is understanding of those types of environmental impacts and the business impacts of them. I know you guys asked about equipment, so I will touch on equipment. In terms of energy intensity, we are the number one. Food service as part of the building space is the number one in the built environment. We're up there. Kitchens are really energy intensive, really energy intensive. And what's more, about 80% of that energy is often wasted. So that's a really big thing that if operators have the insight about what's going on, they can tackle something with it and they can do something with it. If they don't, it's really hard to know where the opportunities are. What all this means for us as food service operators is that, yeah, we've been good at managing costs, we've been good at managing labor. We have to become good at managing our equipment, managing our energy, our water, etc., in ways like we've never done before. Skip waste for the time being. If anybody has questions about waste, by all means, let me know. We can circle back to it. Try to give you all the whirlwind tour of the globe in 30 minutes or less. So where does that leave us with what is Compass Group doing? Take it down to the next level. What really is Compass Group bringing to the table on this if this is what we're seeing? And what we've come up with is carbon footprint as a tool to address what's important to clients. So carbon footprint helps our clients improve their environmental performance in ways that make business sense. It improves the financial aspect of it, while also maintaining, if not improving, the guest experience, right? We do this all in a way to partner with the client to say, all right, hey, what are your stories? What are you trying to achieve? You want to hit carbon neutral by 2015? Great. How can we do that? How can we help you? Now, to make sure this kind of message is crystal clear about what kind of stories we're able to do, what type of stories we're able to tell. Here's one classic example that I've used at a couple of different clients recently. When I've been on the road helping Compass out. To get these results, whatever results we just presented, to get these results, you could do it either by having your food service operators go out and plant Central Park twice in 1 year. Or you could have, over that same period of time, your food service operators do these little vertical things that make a really big difference. And by the way, you still get all of your food service delivered and operated, all in ways that make business sense and maintain or improve the guest experience, which would you rather have your food service operators doing? So those are the type of stories that we're able to tell with our clients based on just having better insights into what we're doing together. Now, while this is a proprietary Compass service, we did develop it in partnership with the best of the best. We looked for industry-leading good case practices, looked for best-in-class methodologies on metrics, and we bundled them together in ways that made sense for our operators. Now, what is our approach? I know there's that question that's been up there. How do we do this? Chris, this sounds magical. Get real, get tactical about this. What does this thing even look like? The approach that we take, like with any other performance improvement initiative, that the methodology is really the same with carbon footprint. First, like with, you'll go on road trips here, except very similar there. Figure out where you're starting from. Create and implement a living plan for continual improvement. And then track that performance and repeat, right? So, how do we do all that? Not really easy to say, but carbon footprint helps establish the benchmark metrics at the unit level and the enterprise level with actionable monthly insights and tailored best practices to that unit. We also provide clients with verifiable science-based performance metrics for monthly, quarterly, yearly public reporting, whether that's to Asian Stars, Carbon Disclosure Project, GRI, ISO, ACU, President's Climate Commitment, lots of different reporting options. Finally, for the students in the room, or other just guests, like a food service operation, we also do this in a way that engages guests through collateral. If you're an app-friendly crowd, we have an app for that as well. And also integrated menu campaigns and a variety of other approaches. So, again, high level, here's help us make some sense of this. So to take it from about the 5,000 foot level down to the 5 foot level and go through some case studies, some examples. Missouri State University, great example. Just caught up with their team today, and it's continued to spiral on since I last checked in on it, so I'm excited about them. Just as a highlight, again, can get more into it if these are of interest, but they were able to partner with their client and reduce the running time on some of their equipment in ways that save them a heck of a lot of water and save them on the financial side as well. So again, doing stuff that improves the environmental performance and makes business sense, right? It improves financial performance as well. And I haven't seen guest experience go down in any way. Now, college, local Vermont example for you all. Something good to close out the presentation portion with. So here at Green Mountain, the students, the faculty partnered with our food service operators to say, hey, you have this data set, you're tracking all this information. Give us, our students, some access to this so we can work with it and figure out and map out some additional things that maybe you haven't done the life cycle analysis on. And now that our students have real life access to real actual data, they can create some real collateral, some real, not just shelfware projects, but projects that actually make a meaningful difference. Collateral that they can actually put into their cafes and use and communicate what they found with the rest of their students, the rest of the faculty. So hey, take mushrooms for example. What's the footprint of a mushroom? How does this dish, what's the footprint of this dish? And if you're picking that dish versus this dish, what does that mean for you? What kind of choices are you making? Or what implications does it have based on your personal dining habits? And by the way, again, for the students in the room, they got credit for doing this. So they got to have hands-on experience and get their degree completed at the same time. So they loved it. The faculty member loved it. Our guy on the ground, David, he loved doing it. It's exciting. And it all helped tell the Green Mountain College story. So I know I covered a lot of ground in a really short amount of time. But it sounded like there might be some questions. And also, I realized it's Monday on St. Patrick's Day, so I wanted to be mindful of everybody's energy in the room and try and avoid the afternoon food coma. So with that, I can throw it over to questions if there are any.